Hello and welcome to this is a quick tutorial on some tips on color correction. So I'm going to start with this image here. Now we're in a piece of software called GIMP, which we've used before in class. I'm just going to open a few images here that we have taken. So I might open, so we might pick one of these as well. So this is 9281, so let's open that one as well. So file, open, and 9281, that one there. Okay, so we'll just work with these two pictures. Let's close that now. So maybe we'll start with this one. So with color correction, there's lots of different ways to do it. So I'm going to start by taking the layer. I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate it. So now I've got two layers, so I can turn them both off or turn them both on. They're both identical at the moment, so as you turn them on and off, you don't see any difference. So what I want to do is I want to get sort of the average color in this picture. And there's a little trick to do that. So I'm going to go Filter, Blur, Pixelize. Before I do that though, I need to know the size of the image. So I'm going to go Image, or Canvas Size, so Image Canvas Size, and it says it's 2816. And then by 1880. So 2816 is the number I need to remember. So I'm going to go Filter, Blur, Pixelize. There's the number there. Normally it's 10 by 10, but we put in that number here, and we're going to go OK. So we get this color here. So that's the average color in that image, but the color wasn't quite right. It was sort of too dark. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to say, first of all, with the layer selected, we're saying don't have a normal mode. What we want is an overlay mode. So I'm going to lay this on top of what was underneath, and this actually makes it darker. But what we want to do now is we want to go color and then invert, and then this is the color it kind of should be. So it's like we've put a filter on top. So if I turn that off, that's the filter that we've overlaid or laid on top of the image underneath. So this is the original image, and then this is it with the overlay. So the skin tone looks an awful lot better. So an awful lot sort of more pink and red in the skin tone. So that's one example. So here's another example. This doesn't have skin tone in it, but this is, let's just go through the process again. So to try and get the average color and apply it to this image. So I'm going to take the image, I'm going to right click on it, on its layer, and duplicate the layer. And again, we're going to check the image size. So the canvas size, it's 2816, the same as the last one. So we're going to go Filter, Blur, Pixelate. And again, normally we would have to type that in, but because we've done it before, it remembers it, but normally it's 10 by 10. So 2816, and we go OK. And it gives us this image here. So this is the average color for the whole picture. So again, we select the layer, and instead of having a normal layer, we want it to be an overlay. And if I just, so this has actually made the image darker, but now we need to go color and invert. And this is how it should look. So this is sort of the, so we've put sort of almost like a daylight filter on top of what we had originally. So that's two ways you can color correct. And then just have a look at one or two of the other tools available to us. So under color, we have a whole bunch of tools here. So we've got color balance, which allows us to change the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights. So the dark areas, the middle kind of brightness areas, and then the very bright areas. So we can play with them. But the tool I like using the most is, or I think is most effective, is levels. So with levels, we can have very fine control of the different attributes of the image. So the first thing is I can pick a channel. So I can pick red, green, or blue. I'm going to leave it on value for now, so I'm going to do all of them. And we'll also have a look at what these this sort of image does. So this is white over here. So as I bring this back, you can see that I'm increasing the area here where there is brightness. So I can swing that back here, and then I can do the same here with the dark areas. I can increase that. So these are two sort of extremes that we don't really want to play with too much, but this middle value is quite interesting. So I can make the dark parts of the image darker, or the dark parts of the image brighter. So quite often, so this image here is, as it stands, is not terribly good because there's no black areas in it. It's only shades of grey. But if I go too far to the other side, then the areas that are dark or very dark have lost detail. So it's about trying to find, so if I hit reset channel, so this is where we started, and trying to find a kind of a middle ground. Normally sliding this slightly to the right will increase the contrast range. Then we can pick an individual channel, say like red, because there's a lot of red in this image here, and then we can make the red parts darker or the red parts brighter, and as you can see, that's tinted across the entire image. So normally you'd be quite subtle about how you lifted or lowered that level on its own, and then again I can reset the channel. So this is one tool that you can play with, and that you can which is quite, it's a very powerful tool. We'll look at it in more detail in a more sort of logical way when we look at it again, and go through what each of these does. But just as a quick overview of sort of the tools available to you to maybe play with the colors in an image, we have this method here where we find the average color and invert it and place it on top like a color filter. You have your main color balance tools where you can increase the amount of red in the image. So we're in the midtones here, or in the dark areas, or in the highlights. And again, you can reset the range if you feel like you've made a mistake. And then we could also use levels. So just as a quick introduction to changing the color in an image, there are some of the tools available to us, and like I said, another day we'll look at them in a little bit more detail. So that's enough for now.